The days are longer, the calendar is filling up, and I want to feel as good as this beautiful summer weather. That's why I've been loving Groons. It's one daily pack of gummies that covers my greens, vitamins, and minerals, and even has 6 grams of prebiotic fiber. So I don't need to juggle a complicated wellness routine on top of everything else. They taste amazing. They're easy to toss in my bag on the go. Plus, they're vegan, gluten free, and HSA, FSA eligible for reimbursement. Save up to 52% off with promo code podcast at gruns.co. That's code podcast at gruns.co.
Well, hello, everyone. I am Dawn Mitchell, and welcome to Dawn of Sports. I'm so excited for our guest today, Cara Banks, one of golf's best broadcasters. You have heard her on NBC, also before that, Golf Channel. And now we get to talk about this. It's so exciting. This past year, she's the lead play-by-play announcer for NBC's LPGA broadcasts, but she's also just an exciting person to talk to. So we have that coming up.
This is Dawn of Sports. She's Dawn Mitchell from Fox 9 Sports. By the way, I want to give full credit. Our friend Cara Banks used to work for the Vikings, is now a senior publicist at NBC. She helped us set this up, so thanks to Carly. We're coming from the Aquarius Home Services Studios. This is TalkNorth.com. Go to TalkNorth.com to check out all of our other shows. We're also introducing her Playbook, a Dawn of Sports leadership series this week, which will highlight women entrepreneurs and business people around Minnesota, so check that out during the show as well. Thanks to Minnesota Masonic Charities, Lucy Nicotine Pouches, the Minnesota Twins, and we are coming to you again from the Aquarius Home Services Studios. And by the way, the KPMG Women's PGA Championship will be held at Hazeltine June 25th through 28th, and I'm looking forward to that. Dawn.
Well, Cara, thank you so much for joining us. And I'm just kind of a big fan. I've been watching you ever since you first started on Golf Channel. And now congratulations on all your success at NBC. Thanks for joining us. How are you doing right now?
Oh, thank you so much. I'm great. I'm really excited to be kind of in this new position and grateful for your interest and support over the years. And excited to chat today. So thanks for having me.
I know you jumped into all the LPGA action earlier this summer. The big announcement came in April. How excited were you when NBC said you were going to be our lead play-by-play broadcaster, and this world is your oyster now to take over? How was that for you?
Yeah, it was so exciting. Honestly, my boss at NBC Sports, Sam Flood, told me as we got off a flight to Atlanta for the Tour Championship at the end of the last PGA Tour season, and I just hugged him. I was so excited to join the NBC team on a full-time basis, and really felt that I'd been working towards this. Like I've had all those years at Golf Channel, as you said, and then some time previously when I was over in the UK. But I've been part of Tommy Roy's team, who's the best of the best on the PGA Tour side, reporting for him and doing some hole announcing, and just felt I was really ready for this. So I'm excited to have the time to sit in the chair now.
I've always enjoyed your analysis. What I didn't realize until I saw the Golf Digest piece was that what you did in Africa, just slugging it out, doing all the behind the scenes stuff as well as on air. Tell us about your African experience and how did that come about and what did it teach you?
Yeah, so it was honestly one of the wildest times of my career. There was actually two parts to it. So one is I was living in Ghana for 4 months when I was 18. I took a year out between school and college, and I got a placement working at Metro TV, which was their national TV station, and I presented the World Entertainment News, which has always been something that stood out on my resume. You know, when you're trying to start out in the industry and you have something that makes you look a little bit different. And then once I did get my start in the industry, I was working for IMG in London, International Management Group, and we were predators, if you like, which was a kind of producer-editor term that we came up with to produce this low-budget golf magazine show. And we were sent off on our own with an F5 camera in our backpack, an Apple Mac laptop with Final Cut Pro on, to make stories to send back to go in this 30-minute weekly program we produced. So I would go to Joburg or Cape Town or wherever really there was a golf tournament. It might be Asia, it might be the Asian Tour, Sunshine Tour, LPGA Tour, PGA Tour, European Tour, so all over the world on my own. And I'd have to set up these stories. So whether it's a player interview or whether it's a piece on the golf course, I'd have to set it up myself, sit the player down, do the white balance, set up the camera, the microphone, make sure the audio was working. And then I'd sit down next to the camera and ask the questions. And then I'd go back to my hotel room that night and download all the material and edit it into a 4-minute piece. And I had to write a script to go with the B-roll. And it was, it was a massive job on, I guess, very little compensation at the time, but it taught me so much about how to produce content and television and how to make connections and network and relationships with people. So it's really been actually wonderful grounding that I've now taken with me through the industry these following years.
Cara, what I love about that is so many people, even when they ask me, wow, how did you get to where you are? It's so lucky that you're on TV. And I tell them, well, I didn't start in front of the camera. Exactly what you said, I started learning the audio. I was a stage manager. I was writing. I was producing for other people to say. So I would do all the work and hand it off and other people would read it. And, you get then in front of the camera and people think you're an overnight sensation, right? And you're like, no, look at all this work I've done. How many people have come to you like, wow, you just walked out of the UK and onto NBC. And you're like, no. I really admire you that you've done all of that, and it's a tough journey, but like you said, it makes your broadcasting even better, doesn't it?
Yeah, I've always felt like it's been so good for me to have done so much in the production world before really focusing with the on-camera stuff, because I have a full understanding of how everything works. And I think it's very hard if you just come into this position out of nowhere, which not many people do unless they've got, previous, and maybe if they're an athlete, right, then they may come straight into being on-camera talent. But I think it gives you such a good understanding of the team that's behind you, because, as the on-person face, you are the face and the voice that people see and hear, but you couldn't do any of your job without every single person in this team who doesn't always get the attention that you do. So it's such an important lesson as to how much work goes into producing live TV, non-live TV, anything it might be. So I've always carried that with me. And then, there's also a big difference I have found between live broadcasting and non-live broadcasting. And a lot of what I had done before I came to the US was non-live. I had done some live, but then it's been fun, I would say, in my first few years in the US to go into the production trucks when we're at a golf tournament and just sit and watch what everybody does at all these different stations, and what EVS do and what graphics do and all that kind of stuff. Because, without them, we don't have a job in front of the camera. So It's a big team effort.
We've watched women's sports just rise dramatically in popularity recently, and here in Minnesota tends to support women's sports very well. Minnesota Lynx, Minnesota Frost. We've had plenty of golf tournaments. With Big Ten championships, Final Fours, all that. How's the LPGA doing? Is the LPGA on the rise? Is it looking for its path? How would you describe its situation at the moment?
I think the LPGA just had the best week it could have asked for at the US Women's Open. So yes, the LPGA is on the rise. We were so excited for the first, can you believe it, the first women's major ever to be held in LA County, but that was the case. And we had so much preparation ahead of the week at Riviera Country Club. And there was so much talk about what the LPGA needed. And you know what? It was like, they need a good venue and they need a dramatic Sunday and a good winner. And honestly, on Sunday afternoon, on that 18th green at Riv, I turned around to some people from the USGA and I said, could you have asked for much better? Like, it was just the storybook Sunday that they needed and wanted. Nelly Korda had been wanting to win the US Women's Open since she was a little girl. She's the world number one. She is the American superstar that everyone's kind of pinning their hopes on right now. So for her to have come through, but not a walkover, easy wire-to-wire victory, perhaps like you could say she had at the Chevron Championship, she was challenged, and there was some drama from Charlie Hull coming out early. So I think the LPGA have had momentum that they needed in prime time on network TV at the last major championship. Now the question is, can we build on it? Can they build on it? Where will we go from here? And I think that's what makes the KPMG Women's PGA Championship that is coming up in your backyard so exciting, because we just had such a wonderful climax at the last major championship. I think we can't wait to see what happens next.
Yeah, and there's such an appetite for that, and not only women's sports, but golf here in the upper Midwest, because, I mean, I'm going back years. The last one I covered was way back in Wisconsin. Sayre Pak, I believe, won, but it came down to an exciting finish way, way back then. And just the amount of people that came out in Wisconsin, we're talking over 20 years ago. People just have an appetite for it. So like what you're saying, if you add the excitement and you get names that people really want to come out and see, and then broadcasters like yourself, I mean, I have to give you credit, Cara. You made it exciting to listen to. I think when you have all of that as a package, that's when the eyeballs start coming back to the sport. Don't you agree?
Oh, well, thank you. That's really nice to hear. And yes, I think it's a combination of things, and it's learning how to capture the audience and get their attention, but then not speak too much and let the moment play out. And I'm excited because I will be hosting the full NBC coverage at the KPMG. So I'm really looking forward to that. But yes, you need the names to deliver. And that's what, there was so much hope for Nelly, and there was also a bit of expectation. She's world number one. Can you win when you're expected to win? And, she did. But that is one of the hardest things to do in sport. And so they needed Nelly, really, honestly, as an American, as the US Women's Open on primetime TV in the US from the West Coast to stand up. And she did. And Charlie Hull is another massive name in the game. She's just has this swag and this flair that people love. And, she was tossing her ponytail and kicking her legs up on every tee. And it was just so fun to watch. And Gabby Lopez from Mexico. And it was just this international, awesome feel and flair that we really had all week long. Jennifer Kupcho, another American star. So yes, the names delivered. We had a great team around us. We've had Bones join the LPGA telecasts as well, and he's just been incredible since coming from the caddying to the broadcasting side. And to listen to someone like him call the best in the women's game is fascinating, because he's watched so many greats play the game. Morgan Pressel, who I'm alongside in the booth, she's been there, done that all since she was 18 years old. So it's a total team effort, and we're really lucky with everybody that they've put in place.
We are coming to you from the Aquarius Home Services Studios. We'd also like to thank Minnesota Masonic Charities. Thanks also to Lucy Nicotine Pouches.
My friends have been all in on Lucy lately, and the good news is it's never been easier to try, because Lucy is now available at Quick Trip. They've tried just about every pouch out there, and Lucy has become the one they keep coming back to. Great flavor, great strength options, and a pouch that actually holds up. You can get Lucy in mint, apple ice, mango, espresso, berry citrus, and apple cider. The flavor lasts, and you will want to test the lineup. Start with the 6-pack. The game changer is Lucy Breakers. Every pouch has a burstable flavor capsule. Bite into it for an extra hit of flavor and a smooth kick that just keeps going. My friends call Lucy top tier, and they recommend it to everyone. Give them a try. Get 20% off your first order when you buy online at lucy.co/Dawn with the promo code DAWN. That's lucy.co/Dawn with the promo code of Dawn. And if you don't want to wait, check out their store locator to find where you can pick up Lucy at your nearest Quick Trip today. And here comes the fine print. Lucy products are only for adults of a legal age, and every customer is age verified. Warning, this product contains nicotine. Nicotine is an addictive chemical.
Thanks for the sponsorship of the Minnesota Twins. Go out and see what game at Target Field if you get the chance. It's still a beautiful place.
Here is where it all starts. Here's where pages are turned and new legends are written. Here's where kids become lifelong fans and lifelong fans become kids. Here's where sunsets last longer, happy hour tastes better, and summer hits its stride. And when all of Twins territory stands together and believes hard enough, well, there's no place like here. Get your tickets at twins.com.
And here's a new addition to our show, Her Playbook, a Dawn of Sports leadership series. This week, we're letting Dan Bakken from Citizens Independent Bank tell us about his remarkable mother and her business exploits. That's what we're going to do. We're going to highlight women in business, women entrepreneurship every week here on Dawn's show. Women's sports don't grow because of one moment. They grow because people keep showing up. The fans, the athletes, the entrepreneurs, the local businesses investing in their communities and believing in what's possible. At Citizens Independent Bank, they believe that same local connection is what helps people reach their goals, with financial solutions built around relationships, not transactions. Citizens Independent Bank, unlock the power. Member FDIC, equal housing lender.
Well,
I had one more question
yeah, go
about
ahead,
your
Jim.
Africa experience. Do you have a favorite story or memory about working in Africa and doing what you were doing?
Oh my gosh, I have so many. I have to tell you, one actually happened, which isn't really a favorite because it's scary. But one was on the airplane, and I was leaving. This was actually not to Africa at the time, but I was in this predator role, right? But I was actually flying to Tampa in Florida on my own. I had all the kit up in the overhead bin. I had my passport on my phone on my lap, and I was sitting I was like 32G or something, right? Like I was back of the bus, middle of the economy seats, and we take off. We're 30 minutes into this flight, and all of a sudden the captain comes on the speaker and he says, "Will all flight crew report to the flight deck immediately?" And I thought, that does not happen very often. Like I travel quite a lot, and that is weird. So anyway, all the flight attendants scurried to the front of the plane, and then everyone was like wondering what's going on. And then all of a sudden the captain said, "Prepare the cabin for an emergency landing." And I can't tell you, we had been in the air for 30 minutes. We were back down on the ground at London Gatwick within 10 minutes. Nobody knew what was going on. The landing was so violent that a baby in the row in front had vomited. And the second we hit the tarmac on the runway, the plane stopped, shut down. You know, normally you obviously you taxi down the runway, like the plane stopped dead. All the lights went off. Everyone was like, what is happening? It's terrifying. And suddenly the captain said, "Emergency evacuation." And the oxygen masks came down, the emergency doors opened, the slides came out. I mean, the whole thing, like you see, obviously in the safety briefings. And we didn't know what was going to happen. Turns out the smoke alarm had gone off in the hold where all the suitcases are. So there I was, jumped down the slide onto the runway at London Gatwick. And, thankfully I had my passport and phone in my lap, and I had them in hand. And sort of we ran off to a field where there was an emergency bus, and I'd left my camera and all that on the plane. Obviously, we all got it back later, but that was a very dramatic experience I had with all of this worldwide travel. And thankfully everyone was safe, and it was totally precautionary in the end. There had been no fire in the hold, but obviously they had to take all care in case they did. In terms of the Africa stuff, the stories when I was there working with the camera and everything were pretty standard, because even though you go to these amazing places, quite often it's a lot of airport, hotel, and golf course, which around the world, no matter where you are, pretty safe places to be. But when I was living in Ghana for a while, I would travel and we would go to the neighboring countries, Togo and Benin. And I remember I hopped on the back of one of these little motorbikes that they ride around everywhere. And because I'm so tall, I didn't think about my leg. I was sitting on the back in front of a driver of this motorbike. I didn't think about my legs and reaching the exhaust pipe. So I hop on this bike and I put my leg down, and I burnt the inside of my leg so badly on this exhaust pipe. And there I am in the middle of Togo. We traveled from Ghana. And I'm like, what am I supposed to do? Just jumped in. Thankfully, we're near the ocean. I jumped in the ocean, but I still have a scar to this day on my lower inside right leg from that exhaust pipe in Africa. So I have lots of crazy memories, but it's like an unbelievable experience to have seen the world in that way.
Well, just to let people know, you're 6'1", right? So I can just imagine 6'1", legs go over, get burned on the exhaust pipe. I mean, it must have been so instantaneous for you to be like, oh my gosh, like you were so lucky it wasn't anything worse.
Yes, I am 6'1", and yes, exactly. Obviously, I was such a rookie. I don't ride motorbikes very often, and and then it blistered up, and it was like really horrible. So I've learned my lesson very well from my time over there.
Cara, before I also wanted to ask you, what was it like to cover the Paris Olympics? I know that you've done some other Olympics as well, but you're on the golf team then. Also in some Olympics, you've covered like skiing and soccer, but most recently the Paris Olympics. I know that you've done, live at Wimbledon, live at the Open, all of the golf stuff, but to be part of the Olympic coverage, just kind of taking your career to that level, how exciting was that for you?
Oh, yeah. I mean, the Olympics is the pinnacle of sport. And I think we are very lucky at NBC that we have the broadcast rights in the US to the Olympic Games, which is both summer and winter, obviously. So it's an amazing opportunity to be able to be involved in any which way. And for the Paris Olympics, I was hosting one of our studios that actually was back in Stamford. So a lot of our production happened back in Connecticut at the NBC Sports Base, and only a few people went to the location. So the hours were wild. I think I was getting up at like 1:30 in the morning every day, and I was in the studio at 2. Maybe I was getting up earlier, and we were on air at 4 every day. So our broadcast started at 4 a.m. because that was 11 a.m. in Paris. And the other thing about the Olympics that you don't realize until you're working them is it's like 16 straight days of almost, Groundhog Day of the same schedule. It's not like you work your week and then you have your weekend. It's this stretch that you have to mentally prepare yourself for. And now I know it, but it's taken me a couple of Olympics to prepare myself for that, I think, going into it. And I have young kids at home, so the 1:30 alarm and needing to go to sleep at like 6 o'clock at night meant there was no way I was going to entertain staying at home. So I stayed at a hotel near the studio. So it's a funny kind of dynamic depending on what role you have, where your position is, depending on the time difference. Because then on the other side of the coin, the recent Winter Olympics, Milan Cortina, I was out in Cortina covering the women's alpine, which was totally different because you're on the time zone. And then when you're covering a specific sport rather than hosting a studio, which will throw out to any sport that's going on at that time, you're on that sports schedule, of which there are built-in off days, training days, and things like that.
If you know of a business that wants to advertise with Dawn's show or wants to be included in her playbook, the Dawn of Sports Leadership Series, you can reach out to our Vice President of Business Development, Tammy Henderson at thenderson@talknorth.com. Tammy's great. You'll enjoy working with her. Cara, is there somebody in the golf announcing world who has helped you with, who's been influential in your career? Is anybody you'd like to give credit to?
I would say I've followed along very closely with Dan Hicks and what he's done. But most of these guys in that lead play-by-play role that I have come across at NBC, Mike Tirico, Terry Gannon, Dan Hicks, have been really open, welcoming, warm, informative, and just helping me figure out how to do it. And I'll never forget when I first got the opportunity to call or play-by-play on the LPGA Tour, which was a few years ago in 2021, at this all-female broadcast event we had for the ShopRite LPGA Classic. When it was announced, Mike Tirico just called me and he said, "What can I do to help you? I'll sit and watch tape with you. I'll show you my spreadsheets, whatever it takes." So he really went out of his way, which I've always appreciated, and sent me his templates that he uses and spoke to me about little tips and tricks of the trade. And I'm always asking questions. I spend a lot of time with Dan now, which is nice. And we both did the Alpine event at the Winter Olympics. So I'm always asking questions and trying to learn from them. But what I've also learned is that there is no playbook. There is no one way to do this. And everybody has their own technique of doing it. And I'll never forget when I first came to the US and I was part of the team one of the co-hosts for Morning Drive on Golf Channel, the breakfast show. I was trying to figure out how I prepped for that and how I had my information in order. And I remember saying to Damon Hack at 4 a.m. one day when we were in the newsroom for a production meeting, I said, I think I'm figuring out the best way to do this. And he goes, well, let me know when you figured it out, because I still haven't. And I was like, wow, okay, you've been here for years. And that just made me realize, like, it's always a work in progress. There's no one which way to do it. The result is the finished product that comes out on the air. And however you get to that might look very different for each person.
Well, Mike Tirico's a good friend of mine for many years. He's been on this podcast. And when you talk about he and Dan Hicks, there's no two better men to follow. And on this podcast, I always talk about how I like to highlight strong professional women, but also the men that support us and the men that help us. So what you just said just dovetails perfectly into what this podcast is all about. And the fact that you juggle 3 children, a husband, a career. Women can have it all. You just have to, might be a little, compartmentalize your life at some points. Maybe sanity goes out the window for a little bit, but kudos to you, Cara, for being a shining example of how a woman can actually do it all with help. Like you said, we don't get there ourselves, and then just trying to figure out your own way about it. So kudos to you.
Oh, thank you. Do you know, people do always ask that question, because I think as a woman in any industry, when you want to start a family, you're trying to figure out the right time to do it and, fit it into the schedule. And I remember when we were first trying to have a family, and I spoke to my agent at the time, and she said, Cara, there is never a right time. Plus, you also really cannot plan this. So just don't worry about it. Have your family and everything will take care of itself. And that's kind of the attitude that we've always had, and my husband Ollie and I. It's like, family will always come first. I'm not going to put work on. I'm not going to wait to start a family because of what's going on at work. We'll just figure it out. We'll make it work. And I think it's great to set an example to your children that you do have to go to work. And if we want to have a certain lifestyle or do certain things, we both, mum and dad, both have to work. And there's a reason that we do that. But I will also say that balance is key. And I do feel very fortunate that this role, while sometimes, yes, is very busy and will take me away from home and will make me travel and whatever else that comes with it, it also does give me a lot of downtime. So it's a very different job to having a Monday to Friday 9 to 5. I'm not sure that I could do that, for example, because I might go and work a tournament and then I might have 2 weeks off at home and I can just switch into full-time mum mode. And for me, that is like my saving grace, and that I almost get the best of both. And then don't get me wrong, after a few weeks at home with my kids, I'm very happy to go away for a few nights to a hotel room and go on a golf tournament. So it gives you a little break here and there, and it gives you a chance, gives you a little bit of a few days on your own and a chance to focus on work and reset and come back and then throw yourself into the family stuff. We have a wonderful nanny, as you say, can't do it on your own because we have no family in the US at all. Everyone is back in England. So, and my husband travels too. So it's honestly, our lives are chaos and our calendar is like all these different colors of everyone all over the place, but you just have to be organized and make it work and really take advantage of the time that you do have off and throw yourself into everything with the kids, which I do and I love and feel very grateful to be able to do that.
Well, Cara, we're grateful to have you. I know your time is expensive. Thank you so much for being on this podcast. I'm really looking forward to you coming to Minnesota to cover the LPGA here. Our thanks also to Carly Bonk, one of our dear friends, for making this all happen. And I just want to say on a personal note, I could listen to you all day with your beautiful accent. You could read the phone book, as they say. Young kids don't know what a phone book is anymore, but just your voice in and of itself is fantastic, but your talent stands out. And we thank you so much for talking to us here on Dawn of Sports. Really, really appreciate it, Cara.
Oh, thank you so much. I'm really grateful for you having me. And I'll keep hold of my English accent. Even though my kids are going to have American accents, I'll try and keep hold of it.
That's awesome. Thank you. Have an awesome trip out here and the rest of your summer, but we'll see you soon.
Yeah, hopefully I'll see you at Hazeltine. Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Cara.
Thank you. Thank you. We are so proud to start a new initiative right here on Dawn of Sports. It's a leadership series. It's her playbook. And we're kicking it off with a spectacular conversation today. I welcome in Dan Bakken from CIB, which is Citizens Independent Bank. Thank you so much, Dan, for joining us. And I know that you're the Vice President of Business Banking, and you come with a huge, I should say, history of not only bringing success in terms of banking to the Twin Cities, but also being supportive of women in sports, your whole entire family. So thanks for joining us for this conversation.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Thanks for the opportunity.
You know, a lot of people might say, what is this lying down here? We have this spectacular book, which is The Extraordinary Life of an Ordinary Woman. And I take kind of issue with that because I think your grandmother was extraordinary. So Extraordinary Life of an Ordinary Woman who is extraordinary. I'm going to add that on
Thanks.
there. Connie Bakken. Connie Bakken, I know of your grandmother from years and years of covering the Gopher women basketball team. But not only was she a benefactor and a supporter, she was so much more. Your whole family loves sports. Not only women's sports, but just in general. When you grow up having a grandmother like Connie, who not only did that, helped your family, was a woman that got into banking and was successful that way as well. It's a lot of pressure for the younger kids to come, but what did that kind of trickle down to you and the rest of your family when you have a matriarch of that magnitude and that heart?
Yeah, well, at least, my dad's got pretty big shoes to fill too.
Yes.
I'm third generation and actually have two younger brothers at the bank as well. So it's just like you mentioned, it's a great legacy to have. Some of that is in my blood or some of the things that we do as far as community involvement and we're a smaller community bank. So that social responsibility and the customers that we serve and the locations that we serve, a lot of that is preserving that legacy. It is big shoes to fill, but it makes the job purposeful for sure. And a lot of the challenges with that come with it are easier to move through.
You know, I love that you said that because there is sort of this social responsibility whenever you are an independent company and you are local, and then you start getting into the communities and you become one with them, kind of a piece like that. You're kind of the fiber is bred that way. Have you found that a lot of people come back to your family that way? Like I knew your grandmother, I know your dad, the whole family. Yeah. You're just woven together that way.
Yeah, for sure. And it's I'd say at the bank, there's people that I don't even know that talk about my grandma or my dad in that way. And sometimes I'll put it this way: they might say, "Oh, I know your dad or grandma through this or this," but if they talk about banking school or a fun party they were at, sometimes I know that they knew them a little bit better than just casually. So I'll put it that way. It's, less social responsibility. The social aspect of it is great because you meet it gives you the opportunity, banking and especially smaller local bank, you meet a lot of different people and make a lot of friends that way too. So you're absolutely right. Tons of people that I'll run into that go, "Oh, you Connie's grandson?" I go, "Yeah, absolutely."
When you are Connie's grandson, you also grow up them knowing that my grandma is bad in a good way, right? Like
Right.
She's a good woman in terms of she had to be tough. She had to be smart. She had to be ahead of her time in many respects to go into the world of banking. When you see women of her generation, whether it's Wall Street, banking, anything on the business side, you know that they had to have their wits about them. They had to be smart, but you also have to have a heart too, because you have to carry that legacy forward. What did you learn specifically, maybe from your grandmother setting that precedent as a woman in business?
Yeah, well, you're right. You do have to be tough, and being tough doesn't mean not having a heart,
Right.
And I think I've learned that from my family, but as I continue on in the business too, and just like you said, at that time, that was an especially radical thing. And so That's kind of what's fun about the book. I don't know how widely available these are, if they're published or what, if you can look it up and find a copy, but it is a pretty interesting story, just how she had friends that discouraged her from going into banking or buying a bank because not in their minds, at least, not that they were trying to put her down, but they didn't want to see her fail. And she kind of persevered through that as well.
Yeah, they did it out of love, right? Like, we don't want to put yourself out there.
Yep.
And that's where that toughness comes in, right? That, well, I wasn't planning on failing, just watch me kind of thing, right?
Yep.
A little bit of sass, maybe.
Totally. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Did you really love that when we talk about this, that she identified as an ordinary woman? That's what I said. I don't know. I take issue when I see someone of that great magnitude that gave so much to a community, gave so much to her family, was smart at business, and then had that, not only the entrepreneurial side, but the charitable side. That's extraordinary to me. But yet she wanted to be known, from everything, all the research I've done, she wanted to be known as an ordinary woman.
Yeah, and like you said, sassy is totally a good way to say it, but she was humble too. Man, I mean, like, there's enough stories. Like, we had somebody, she was very fashionable too, and she was a big shopper. And she came in to the bank as she was kind of more of our board chair emeritus at that time. So she was coming into the office and just being able to visit with staff and customers. And one of our staff at the time, she had like an alligator coat on, or like alligator pattern, and somebody was teasing her about, oh, well, isn't that kind of not cool anymore to have alligator, as soon as she goes, it was dead when I found it. There's just stuff like that.
It's dead when I found it. It's still dead, and it's still cool to me, right? She's bringing it back.
Totally.
That's what I loved about that. When she really stood up for, I should say, the Gopher women's basketball team. You and I spoke a little bit before we sat down, and I saw some pictures of when Pam Borton said, this is what we need. And your grandmother did not bat an eye to not only step up and fill the need of getting them a locker room, financial support, but was there, like, loved them so much. Yeah. Can you tell us more about why she just loved sports so much, but especially so the Gopher women?
Yeah, well, again, kind of in addition to when she was starting in business in the 80s, she was just aware of where there were gaps and opportunities for women. And so, kind of like I mentioned, we were chatting before the podcast, I think a lot of the interest initially came from her going to those games with my mom, Mary, and then Debbie Burchett is a longtime family friend of ours. And she was connected to Pam by somebody, or a friend introduced her and basically asked her, well, what do you need? And she said, well, locker room for one. Yeah. So that was what kind of kicked off the support she gave to them over the years. And like, my one humble brag is Pam Borton came out with a leadership book. I think it was at least 5 or more years ago, and I don't remember what it's called. But I was at a Twin West Chamber of Commerce event, and so I just went up and chatted with her, and she knew exactly who my grandma was and was happy to chat. So it's not like I know her personally, but that was just kind of fun.
Yeah. And Pam kind of reminds me a little bit of what your grandmother stood for in terms of being leadership based, and also relationship based. Which comes with being a local independent bank, right? You have to have relationships with people. It just can't be it's ironic. A bank is all about transactions, but when you're dealing with people, you can't be transactional.
Right.
And I think Pam is like that as well. You're playing basketball, you're here for a reason. I want you to be a leader, but there needs to be relationships.
Yep.
What in your family is important relationship wise that maybe, Connie said, this is the Bakken way, or led by example that way?
Yeah. I mean, it comes down to the social responsibility, a lot of our mission, honesty and integrity. It's just that our success as a business it comes from that, and vice versa. It's not something we do just for the notoriety or to advertise. I mean, those things are good, but the kind of people we hire are aligned with that mission. We're not looking for somebody necessarily who just knows their role and goes home at the end of the day.
Mm-hmm.
And we support every employee in different initiatives that they might come up with, or different community activities they want to serve on, so that business and personal kind of blends together, and not in a bad way. It's there's always some kind of opportunity to be supportive of an individual, community organization, both in and outside of work, with this career. So that's what I love about it.
I love how your family is, first of all, synonymous with innovation, and also business, and also altruistic ventures. Whether it's from the bank, whether it's from the Bakken Museum, or whether it's from your grandmother donating whatever they need for the Go First, and not only have a locker room, but for the young women to succeed. You must be so proud to take that family heritage and carry it with you.
Yeah, thanks. I am. And it's, I guess I've kind of spoken to it. It's something that sustains me. There's plenty of things I probably could be doing. And it's just, I appreciate the opportunity I've got at the bank for everything I've kind of said. It's not just a job to me, but it's a legacy to uphold. And it's something that gives me a lot of purpose. And it's same thing that I mentioned with kind of who we hire at the bank, starting with my grandma. It's, she made sure to have diverse backgrounds to build a stronger team. And it's interesting for me to be able to, and fulfilling to be able to learn from different people, of different backgrounds. And, it's the way that we localize our decision-making. We're smaller. You can get a hold of somebody on the phone easily. We kind of leave it up to each other to know what to do in certain situations, or improvise if there's something we haven't encountered before. So it's fun for me to see other people grow in that way too, that they might not think of themselves as a leader or somebody of major responsibility, and they kind of turn into that.
What I admire about your grandmother, though, is she set the standard that a woman could be smart, she can be a leader, she can be loving, and that she can open people's perspectives as to who can be in charge.
Right.
Right. Not only women, minorities, like she set that standard. And that's just something that is done for you.
Yeah.
Right. It's not, oh, we should try more in this area. That is a basic standard that your family has set.
Totally. Yep.
That must be incredible to be able to pass on to everyone you meet, everyone in your family, future generations, something you can be proud of that way as an intangible.
Yeah.
Not only the business, but that.
Yeah. And that work, having that same kind of culture, preserving that culture, things may evolve or ebb and flow over time, but that's really her personality in a lot of that. And that's what helps us in our business strengths too, or whether it's commercial or for consumer customers, that gives us strength there as well.
Before I let you go, if there's one thing that you can tell anyone listening to this or watching this, if they were to meet your grandmother tomorrow, let's just say we could go back in time and they could meet your grandmother tomorrow, how would you set them up? How would you preface it? Like, you're going to meet my grandmother.
Yeah.
And this is what to expect.
In an ironic way, I probably wouldn't prepare them so much, because she was so good at opening people up. She had kind of that sassiness, or she had a deadpan sense of humor that I think a lot of our family, that's what's the word I'm looking for, kind of unique to us. But also, if you're a big coffee drinker, that was kind of like what she would go around the office doing, is she was always drinking coffee. She was always kind of connecting people that way too.
Fashionable with her alligator on.
Totally.
Drinking coffee with the one-liners, the sass, and a little bit of that deadpan wit, if you will. Oh, I wish I'd met her.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, she has a great legacy. Your family is doing amazing things. She must be up there being so proud of everything that you and your family has done.
I like to think so. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for coming out. I really appreciate it, and for setting the example of what this leadership series is about.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks, Don. Thanks to Jim for setting it up, and Tammy as well. I really appreciate the opportunity.